The sky above the dead planet was dark and full of smoke. Broken alien ships lay everywhere. Their once shiny metal was now burnt, black, and twisted. This was not a place for the living. It was silent, too silent. But someone was here. A small, human ship landed gently between the wreckage. Its legs touched the dusty ground with a soft thud. The door opened, and a man stepped out. He wore a patched suit and a breathing mask. His name was Darren Holt. A scavenger, a merchant who searched war zones to collect parts and tech to sell. Darren wasn't rich. He wasn't powerful. He was just smart and quick. And most importantly, he was alone. "This place smells like death," he muttered to himself as he scanned the wrecks with his scanner. The device beeped weakly. Nothing valuable yet. "Come on, give me something." Hours passed. Darren found some small alien tools and half-broken energy cells. Nothing special. Not enough to buy food for the week. He was ready to turn back when his scanner gave a strange, loud beep. He froze. "What's this?" he said. The scanner showed something deep under a pile of broken steel. Something large and sealed. Darren moved quickly, pulling metal sheets, pushing aside wires, until he saw it. A chest dot. It was made of dark silver and marked with strange glowing symbols. Alien writing, smooth curves, and sharp lines. Nothing human. The chest was old, but undamaged. It gave off a soft humming sound. Darren stepped closer. His eyes narrowed. This isn't just a storage box. Then, something made him stop. A sound. A soft, faint sound, like crying. His heart skipped a beat. He stepped back. "No, no way," he whispered. "There can't be. ... Someone inside." He leaned closer. Yes, the sound was real. Quiet. Weak. Like a child. Darren looked around. The battlefield was still silent. No movement, no life. Just him and the chest. He touched it. It was warm. He searched for a latch or button, and finally found a small glowing pad. He hesitated, then placed his hand on it. The chest clicked. Steam hissed out. The top slowly lifted open. Darren took a step back and raised his tool gun, just in case. But nothing jumped out. Instead, he saw a small form curled inside. A child, but not human. The child had smooth, pale skin with a soft blue tint. His eyes were closed, and strange markings glowed faintly on his forehead. He wore rich clothes made of shining fabric, and around his neck was a pendant. A glowing crystal in a golden circle. The child looked about 5 or 6 years old in human age. He was breathing, but very weakly. "Oh my God," Darren whispered. "An alien ... kid." The child slowly opened his eyes. They were big, glowing slightly, and filled with fear. He looked at Darren, and then he reached out with a trembling hand. Darren lowered his weapon. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you." The child didn't speak, but he didn't pull away either. Just then, Darren's scanner beeped again, fast and loud. He looked down. Multiple signals were approaching. Drones. He looked up and saw them in the distance. Dark flying machines, moving fast. They were scanning the wreckage. "Oh no. They're not here for junk." Darren grabbed the child gently and lifted him out of the chest. He was light, almost too light. "We have to go," Darren said. The child clung to him weakly. Darren ran back to his ship, jumping over metal and dodging flames. The drones were getting closer. Red lights flashed. Alarms sounded. "Unauthorized. Biological signature detected," said a cold robotic voice behind him. Darren reached his ship and jumped inside. The door slammed shut. He placed the child in a seat and fired up the engines. "Hold on, little guy," he said. The ship lifted just as laser shots hit the ground where they stood. The drones followed, but Darren made a sharp turn and vanished into the clouds. After a few minutes, silence returned. They were safe. For now. Darren looked at the child, who had now fallen asleep. Still clutching his pendant, he whispered to himself, "What have I gotten myself into?" But deep down, he already knew. He couldn't sell this child. He couldn't leave him. This wasn't Cargradot. This was someone important, and Darren Holt, a lonely human scavenger, had just become the protector of a noble alien child. A child that someone wanted hidden, or dead. Asterisk, the warning came before the noise. A cold robotic voice echoed through the ship's speakers. "Tracking signal detected. Unauthorized life form aboard. Prepare for intercept." Darren's eyes widened. He looked at the child still asleep, in the passenger seat, then back at the screen. "No. How did they track us so fast?" He jumped to the control panel and started pushing buttons. The ship's engines roared louder. Outside the windows, dark clouds raced past. Then a loud boom shook the ship. The child woke up with a cry, eyes full of fear. "Hey, you're okay," Darren said, kneeling beside him. "We're just going for a fast ride, that's all." But it wasn't just a ride. A black shadow passed over the cockpit. Darren looked up. A sleek drone ship was following them, and it was gaining speed. The same robotic voice came again, but this time from outside the ship. "Surrender the royal target, or be destroyed." "Royal target," Darren repeated, shocked. He looked at the child. "Who are you?" The boy didn't answer, but his grip on the pendant around his neck tightened. It pulsed with a soft blue light dot. Another blast hit the ship. The rear shields dropped to 32%. Darren slammed a red button. Time to disappear. He pulled the ship sharply downward, diving into the thick clouds below. The drone ship followed, firing lasers that cut through the sky. Inside the cockpit, sparks flew. The child was scared, but his eyes watched Darren closely. "You trust me, don't you?" Darren whispered. The boy nodded once, very slowly. Darren smiled for a split second, then turned serious again. He flew the ship into a narrow canyon on a nearby moon, full of jagged rocks and ancient mining tunnels. The drone couldn't follow easily there. It tried, and crashed into one of the rocks. Boom. Darren breathed out. "That buys us a minute." He landed the ship inside an old mining shaft and powered everything down. Darkness, silence. Only the emergency lights blinked. Darren sat on the floor, breathing hard. The child crawled over to him and sat beside him quietly. "Let's talk," Darren said softly. "I saved you. Now I need to know, why are they calling you Royal Target?" The child looked up. His eyes glowed gently in the dim light. He pointed to his chest, the pendant. Darren looked closer. Inside the glowing crystal was a symbol, a golden star surrounded by 3 silver circles. It wasn't just decoration. It was a seal, a royal family emblem. Darren whispered, "You single quotes a prince." The boy nodded. His voice finally came, soft and broken. "My name is Kale." Darren felt a chill. Alien royalty. He had found a lost noble child in the middle of a battlefield. He looked at the pendant again. Under the crystal, tiny writing appeared, and part of it was in human language. Darren's hands shook. "Wait, what is this doing in a human alphabet? Who made this?" Kale looked down, silent. Then, out of nowhere, another shock. A small screen on the wall lit up. A message appeared. Bounty issued. Human merchant, plus royal fugitive. Kale, dead or alive. Reward, 50,000 credits. Darren stood up, stunned. "They just put a price on my head." He stared at Kale. "I could sell you. Right now. Get rich. Never work again." Kale looked up with scared eyes. But Darren's face softened. He took off his breathing mask and smiled. "But I'm not going to." He knelt in front of Kale and gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "I don't sell kids. Not human, not alien, not anyone." Kale blinked, confused. Then, slowly, he reached out his small hand and touched Darren's face. It was a simple, silent "thank you." Darren stood. "We need answers. We need to know who's after you, and why they're using human tech to find you." He looked at the stars outside the broken glass window. "I think this goes way deeper than just one alien war." He turned to Kale. "You stay with me, kid. I'll protect you." Outside, in the shadows of the rocks, something blinked. Another drone was watching. The hunt wasn't over. The boy was floating, not in space, but inside Darren's ship. His eyes were closed, and his body hovered a few inches above the floor. Soft blue light flowed from the crystal pendant on his chest, wrapping around him like mist. His breath was steady, calm. Darren watched from a corner, stunned. "I swear," he whispered. "I turned away for 1 minute, and now you're floating like a spirit." Kale didn't move. His small hand stayed open. The pendant glowed brighter, then suddenly flashed. A pulse of light rushed out across the room, and the air changed. Right in front of Darren, a hologram appeared. It flickered, then formed the shape of an alien, tall, noble, with the same glowing marks as Kale. His voice came slowly, full of pain. "If you are seeing this, then I am gone, and my son is alone." Darren froze. The voice continued. "To the one who found him, please protect Kale. He is the last heir of the House of Senatari. The council has betrayed us. They made a deal with outsiders, beings with no honor. Be careful. They walk in many skins, even human." The hologram began to fade. "Kale, remember your name. Remember who you are. And then, silence. Kale's body lowered gently to the floor. His eyes opened. Darren stepped forward, stunned. That was your father? He asked softly. Kale nodded. The boy's face was calm, but a single tear ran down his cheek. Darren sat beside him. So your people were betrayed. And the ones hunting you, they're working with humans. Kale looked at him. Not real humans. Changed. Hidden. Wearing your faces. Darren's blood went cold. This wasn't just about aliens, it was about something bigger. How much do you remember? Darren asked. Kale was quiet for a while. Then, in a soft voice, he said, I remember fire, screaming, my mother hiding me. In the chest, she kissed my forehead, told me to be brave. His small hands clenched, then the lid closed. And everything went dark. Darren felt something heavy in his chest. He had lost his family once too. Not in war, but in poverty. In silence. Now this child had no one. No one but him. Darren stood up. We need to figure out where to go next. Somewhere safe. Somewhere we can get answers. Kale suddenly pointed to the star map on the screen. Here, he said. Santris 9. Darren looked at the map. That's a restricted planet. Dead zone. No trade. No signals. Why there? Kale touched his pendant again. A symbol appeared. The same golden star. With silver rings. It's where the old ones sleep, Kale said. My father said they know everything. They were friends of our bloodline. Darren sighed. Of course, mysterious ancient aliens. Why not still? He knew they had no other lead. He nodded. All right. But before that, we need to rest. Get food. Fuel up. He opened a storage box and tossed Kale a protein bar. Kale bit into it like he hadn't eaten in days. Darren smiled. You're lucky, you're a cute kid. Otherwise, I'd have left you in that chest. Kale looked at him and tilted his head. Cute, Darren chuckled. Never mind. But just as he turned back to the controls, the ship's alarm blared again. Incoming signal. Deep scan detected. Unregistered ship approaching stealth class. No Deuterans. Smile vanished. Someone found us again. Kale stood up quickly. His pendant glowed brighter than before. Darren turned to him. You know who it is. Kale whispered, a shadow voice. One of the council's hunters. The ship shuddered. Outside, a strange black craft floated near, them silent, like a ghost. A voice came through the speaker. Low, cold. Return the child, and you may live. Darren growled. Not happening. He hit the thrusters and lifted off. Kale moved beside him, steady, focused, as the ship raced. Into the stars again. Darren looked at him. You're not just some lost kid, are you? Kale didn't answer. But for the first time, he placed his hand on Darren's small fingers, gripping tightly. And for the first time, Darren didn't feel alone out here. He had someone to protect, and someone was ready to protect him back. Asterisk, the screen flickered on every planet, station, and outpost. Across the galaxy, in glowing, alien script and human letters, one message appeared. Wanted, human merchant, Darren Holt, then alien royal, Kale Centauri. Reward, 100,000 credits. Dead or alive, report sightings immediately. Do not approach. They are dangerous. In dark bars. Bounty hunters leaned forward. In military bases, alarms began to flash. In backroom black markets, criminals smiled. And in a small cargo ship, hidden near a broken moon, Darren stared at the broadcast. Frozen. Dead or alive, he said slowly. They doubled the reward. Kale stood beside him, silent. His face was pale, but his eyes were sharp. They're scared, he whispered. Scared of what I might become. Darren turned off the screen. No, they're not scared. They're greedy. And now every lowlife with a gun is going to come for us. He leaned back, rubbing his eyes. We need to move fast. Kale opened a small box beside the seat. Inside was an old star map, not digital, but carved into metal. He touched a point on the edge. This place, he said. The world of fog. It's safe. They can't track us there. Darren looked at the coordinates. His eyebrows raised. You're talking about Mistreach. That place is cursed. Kale said nothing. Darren sighed. Of course. Cursed planets. Killer. Drones. Royal politics. Why not add fog monsters to the list? Still, he didn't argue further. He trusted the boy. More than he trusted the stars at this point. He fired the engines. But it was already too late. A red light blinked on the radar. Ship approaching, Darren said. Small, fast, no ID signal. Kale stepped closer to the window. It's a hunter, he said. I can feel it. Darren grabbed a flight stick. Let's make them feel us. The enemy ship came in fast. It looked like a blade. Thin, black, and deadly. It fired first. Lasers slammed into Darren's shields. The whole ship rocked. Sparks flew from the wall. Cale fell back, but Darren caught him. You okay? He asked. Cale nodded. His pendant pulsed once like a heartbeat. Darren spun the ship, flying toward the clouds below. He dove into them, hiding in the thick mist. Come on, he muttered. Lose the signal. Lose it, ... But the hunter didn't stop. It followed them through the clouds, firing again. We can't outrun it, Darren said. We need something else. Cale's eyes glowed faintly. I can help. Darren looked at him. What do you mean? Cale placed both hands on the control screen. The ship's lights dimmed. Then, suddenly the enemy ship's systems began to flicker. From a distance, the hunter tried to fire again, but its cannons shut off. Its engines sputtered. Lights turned red. And then the ship went dead. Silent. Floating. Darren stared. You just shut it down. Cale looked tired. I can speak to machines a little. Darren grinned. Remind me never to play cards with you. They escaped into hyperspace, leaving the dead hunter behind. Inside the ship, the tension faded, but the fear didn't. Cale sat quietly, staring at the stars. Darren brought him a cup of warm synth and sat beside him. Why do they want you dead so badly? He asked. Cale looked down. Because I'm the last. The last what? Cale raised his eyes. The last who remembers. The last who can wake the old blood. The last who carries the memory of the throne. Darren didn't fully understand, but he didn't need to. He placed a hand on Cale's shoulder. You're not alone anymore. Cale looked at him, and for the first time, smiled. But their moment didn't last. A new message arrived on the console. It wasn't public. It was sent directly to Darren's ship. No name. No signal trace. Just one line. You can't protect him forever. We are coming. Darren stared at the message, jaw tight. He looked at Cale, then deleted it. You let me worry about forever, he said. You just stay alive. He stood up and walked to the cockpit. Outside, in the distance, waited a world wrapped in fog, legend, and secrets. It was their next stop, and maybe their last chance to survive. The planet was whispering before they even landed. Darren stood in the cockpit, staring out at the thick clouds swirling below. Mistreach was unlike any world he had ever seen. The atmosphere glowed gray. The fog never cleared, and no sunlight touched the surface. The ship's systems were going crazy. Warning lights flashed. Navigation maps glitched. Static buzzed in the speakers. But it wasn't random. It sounded like voices. Whispering names. Cale's name. Darren shut off the speakers. Yeah, no. We are not listening to Ghost Fog today. Cale sat beside him, calm, as always. The boy's eyes were fixed on the clouds. His pendant glowed brighter than ever. This place remembers, he said. Remembers what? Darren asked. Cale looked up at him. Everything. They entered the atmosphere. The ship shook violently. Darren struggled to keep control. The sky outside was endless mist, glowing slightly from deep inside the clouds, as if the whole planet had a heartbeat. Finally, they broke through and landed on a flat stone surface half covered in moss and old alien carvings. No signs of life. No wind. No sound. Darren powered down the ship. All right, he muttered. You wanted to come here. Let's see why. They stepped outside. The silence was thick. The air smelled of metal and ash. In the distance, tall stone structures rose, like broken teeth from the ground. Old, ancient, long forgotten. Cale walked ahead without fear. He moved like someone returning home. Darren followed, holding his tool weapon tightly. The fog shifted around them as they walked. Strange shapes moved at the edges. Not people, not machines, just shadows that didn't want to be seen. Cale stopped in front of a stone gate. His pendant pulsed once, and the gate responded, glowing, grinding open with a deep, heavy moan. Inside, they found a massive underground chamber. Statues lined the walls. Tall robed figures with empty faces. Symbols covered the floor. Some matched Cale's pendant. Others were in old human code. Darren froze. Why is human language carved into this place? Cale stepped forward. Because this place was made. For both. For both. Darren echoed. Cale turned to him. My people ruled the stars, but they didn't rule alone. Humans were there. Long ago, before your kind forgot. He placed his hand on the central stone. It lit up. A voice filled the chamber. deep, ageless, and not quite human. Heir of the Starline. Guardian of Fireblood. Welcome. Darren stepped back. That voice knew your bloodline. Your protector stands with you. The bond is formed. Darren whispered. They know about me. The voice continued. Your enemies are coming. They ride the black ships. They wear friendly faces. They kill without sound. Suddenly, a glowing map appeared in the air, a star chart with one system, marked in red. This is where the lie began. This is where it ends. The light faded. Silence again. Cale sat on the stone floor, breathing hard. The glow from his pendant dimmed. He looked pale. That's all it will give us, he said. Darren helped him up. You okay? Cale nodded. This place takes energy. Outside, the fog began to move unnaturally, curling, rushing, spinning in circles. Darren raised his weapon. Something's not right. Then they heard it. The deep hum of an incoming ship. Darren looked up. No, not here. Through the fog, black lights appeared. A council ship, massive, silent, deadly. Darren grabbed Cale's hand. We have to go. Now. They ran back to the ship, the fog fighting against them, like invisible hands trying to pull them down. Blaster. Fire exploded behind them. Darren fired back, dragging Cale inside. He threw the ship into the air, punching through the fog as lasers followed them like lightning. They escaped by seconds. Inside the cockpit, Cale sat quietly, watching the fog disappear as they entered space again. Darren turned to him. That wasn't just some holy cave. That was a message, a warning. Cale looked at him, eyes glowing faintly again. They're not just after me because I'm royal, he said. They're afraid of what I carry, what I can wake. Darren leaned back in his seat, breathing heavily. You mean they're afraid of what you are becoming? Cale looked out the window. No, he whispered. They're afraid of what we're becoming together. Asterisk. The stars looked peaceful. Inside the ship, for once, there was no alarm, no chase, no fog. Just quiet hums of the engine, and the soft blinking of navigation lights. Darren leaned back in his chair, sipping recycled tea. Across from him, Cale was sketching on a screen, drawing the star map from memory. His small hands moved carefully, tracing old constellations, lost routes, ancient symbols. They hadn't spoken in an hour, but they didn't need to. It was starting to feel like a home. Then the signal came. Darren Holt. This is Captain Rix. Long time. Darren sat up straight, eyes wide. Rix, he said. Is that really you? The voice on the comms laughed. Still alive, huh? Still flying that piece of junk. Good to hear your voice, old friend. Darren smiled for the first time in days. Captain Rix had been his closest friend during the border runs, a smuggler with honor, someone Darren trusted with his life. Cale looked up. Who is it? Darren answered without thinking. A friend. The only one I've got left, Rix continued. I've got fuel, food, a clean dock. You can hide here. No council patrols in this sector. You're safe with me. Darren didn't hesitate. Send coordinates. We're on our way. They landed on an old outpost station floating near a dying red star. The station was dark, half broken, but still alive. A perfect hiding spot. Rix met them at the entrance. Tall, grinning, scar over one eye, and arms wide open. Darren Holt, he said. You look older, and slower. Darren laughed and hugged him. You look worse. Cale stood back, unsure. Rix looked at him and whistled. So this is the alien prince, the one the whole galaxy wants. Darren stepped protectively in front of Cale. He has a name. Cale. Rix raised his hands. Hey, no offense. Just surprised he's so small. Cale's eyes narrowed slightly, but he said nothing. Rix led them inside. Warm lights, food, even a shower. For a few hours, it felt like a forgotten dream. Peace. Darren spoke freely. He told Rix everything. The bounty, the council, the temple on Mistreach. The hidden star map. Cale remembered. Rix listened closely, nodding. Then, at one point, he asked, so this star map, could it lead to weapons? Old tech, stuff people might pay to keep buried? Darren frowned. What are you getting at? Rix smiled. Just thinking out loud. That night, Cale couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling. Something felt wrong. The silence was too perfect. The walls too smooth. He could feel watching eyes. He sat up and saw a red light blinking on the wall, hidden behind a panel. He walked over, touched it, a tracking beacon. His heart dropped. He ran to Darren's room. Wake up, he whispered. We have to go. Now. Darren blinked. half asleep. What? Then, boom. The ceiling exploded. Smoke filled the room. Sirens screamed. Cale grabbed Darren's hand. They're here. Outside, soldiers dropped from ships. Council soldiers. Black armor. No words. No warnings. Darren turned to run, but stopped. Rix was standing in the doorway. Behind him. 4 armed guards. I'm sorry, Rix said. I really am. Darren stared at him. You called them. Rix didn't answer. You betrayed us. Rix's voice cracked. It's not personal. It's business. Do you know how much they're paying for that kid? Enough to buy 10 planets. Cale stepped back. Darren moved in front of him. You sell him. They'll kill him. He's just a child. Rix's face hardened. He's not just a child. He's a threat to the whole council. You really think they'll let him live? Darren didn't answer. He pulled Cale close and whispered, Run when I say. Rix saw it. Don't try anything stupid. Darren. Too late. Darren grabbed a flash grenade from his belt. Tossed it bright light. Cale ran. Shots fired. Darren tackled one guard. Took 2 hits in the shoulder, then disappeared into the smoke. Cale reached the hangar bay. Alarms blaring. Lights flashing. He jumped onto the ship. Darren followed seconds later, bleeding, coughing, but alive. They launched out as the station behind them exploded in flames. Cale sat in silence, holding Darren's hand. You're hurt, he whispered. Darren smiled weakly. You're safe. That's all that matters. Cale looked back at the stars. He didn't cry. Not this time. But something inside him was changing. The fire was growing. He would never be weak. Again. He was dying. Darren lay on the cold metal floor of the escape ship, his shirt soaked with blood. One arm limp. Eyes half open. Breathing slow. The stars outside blinked gently. Too gently. As if unaware that a man who had fought the galaxy for a child was slipping away. Cale knelt beside him, small hands pressing against the wound. Stay awake, Cale whispered. Please, don't go. Darren tried to smile. You're stronger now. You don't need me. Cale's hands trembled. His eyes glowed softly. I do need you. You're the only real thing I have left. Suddenly, a sharp alarm rang out. Locked target. Royal signal detected. Council warship approaching. Cale stood, wiping his tears. They followed the signal again. He looked at the stars, at the massive ship now filling the view. Black metal, red engines. No flags, no mercy. A voice came through the speakers. Low, cruel, inhuman. You've run far enough, Prince. Surrender yourself. The human will be erased. No more games. Cale's hands curled into fists. He looked down at Darren, unconscious now, barely breathing. And then, something inside him snapped. Not in fear, in fire. He stood tall, walked to the center of the ship, and whispered 3 words in his ancient tongue. I claim blood. His pendant exploded in blue light. Energy spread through the room. Symbols lit up across the ship. Old, alien, forgotten. Cale's voice rose. I am Cale Senatari, son of the last flame. You hunted me across the stars. You took my family. You hurt the one who saved me. Now, I remember who I am. The council warship opened fire, but Cale raised one hand, and the lasers stopped mid-space. Frozen then reversed, slamming back into the warship. It cracked like glass. Cale stepped forward. His voice echoed across space. You feared me because I was lost. But I am not lost anymore. He closed his hand into a fist. The enemy ship shattered, silently, into pieces. The battlefield was over. But his mission was not. Cale rushed back to Darren. He placed the glowing pendant over the wound. And for the first time, he used his power, not to destroy, but to heal. 1 week later, a quiet planet. Green fields. Real sunlight. Darren sat under a tree, fully healed, eating dry rations and watching Cale sketch a new map in the dirt. You've changed, Darren said. Cale looked up. You helped me remember who I am. More like dragged you around the galaxy and nearly got us both killed, Darren joked. Cale smiled. Still worth it. Darren leaned forward. So, what now, your royal glowingness? Cale looked toward the sky. There are others, he said. Others like me, hiding, scared, waiting. I want to find them, bring them together. Not for war, for truth. Darren raised an eyebrow. A prince, building peace. Cale nodded. With a human beside him. To remind him what courage looks like, Darren tossed him a ration bar. All right, your majesty. But I pick the food next time. They both laughed. And somewhere deep in space, old machines woke. Ancient signals stirred. And a forgotten legacy began again. Not just alien, not just human, but something new, something stronger. A child of the stars. And his human guardian.